On today's show, Joel Embiid goes off for 50 points to beat the Knicks. The Nuggets go up 3-0 on the Lakers. Are the Lakers doomed? And some interesting stuff from the Magic and Cavs series that nobody is watching. We've got everything that you need from a Thursday night of playoff basketball on today's Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA Friday. Wes Goldberg here with Adam Mares. However you're tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We'll get to doom and gloom in Lakerland and a big change that the Magic made in their win in a minute, but let's start in Philadelphia, where Joel Embiid's 50 points led the 76ers to their first win in the series against the Knicks. A huge response after the way that Game 2 ended, especially for Embiid, who looked as good as he has in these playoffs. 50 points, a playoff career high for Joel Embiid. What did you see from him in this one, Adam?
To be honest with you, a lot of what I saw in games 1 and 2, just this time they were able to pull it out. He's been, even when he hasn't been playing great, he has been a monster on the court for them in the plus minus. They've been winning those minutes and obviously not surviving the ones after, outside of it. But Embiid, in my opinion, really has been different, not just in the playoffs so far, but in the regular season and through the beginning of this playoffs, in that he seems to be really accepting and embracing the challenge and not letting some of these adversities. We find out today, he's dealing with the do I have this right? Is it Bell's palsy? Is that?
I think it's Bell's palsy.
Bell's palsy?
Yeah, that's it.
Dealing with that and yet just overcoming it, pushing through it and everything else. A 50-piece tonight, a lot of jump shots. He was comfortable with it. I've been impressed with his sort of resolve, I guess it would be the word that I would say this season.
I had the same takeaway, and yet he would be such a more sympathetic figure if he didn't try to kill Mitchell Robinson in the middle of this game. It would just the one little thing every once in a while. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He comes out, half his face doesn't work apparently because of this the Bell's palsy thing. It can't be. I mean, the knee is already what it is. It looks like he's wearing like a Terminator brace on that right knee, and so he's dealing with so much, and he really wasn't even getting to his usual spots in this game. Like he wasn't getting to that free throw line jumper in rhythm with the pocket pass like he always wants to do, like kind of flow into that. It was much more like stagnant. He made 4 3-pointers in the third quarter, and they were all just top of the key, zero rhythm, didn't step into any of them, just was standing straight as a 7-foot statue, just shot it over whatever Nick was unfortunately standing in front of him, and just made all of them. It was just like almost a show off of touch and what crazy touch that this guy has. And so it was unbelievable. And it's going to go down on as probably his all-time playoff performance so far. And it was enough for the Sixers to get the win. They obviously got big games from Tyrese Maxey, contributions up and down that roster. But this was a game where Joel Embiid doesn't look 100%. He looks far from it. He did look more mobile and better than he had in the first 2 games to me. He was much more of a participant on defense. On offense, he was setting screens. He was kind of moving around a little bit more than he had. So he's probably at like 75% of where he was. And I think that that's going to be good enough for the Sixers to win this series potentially. Like this now to me is a real series. Like they could be easily up 2-1 in this series based on the way that game 2 ended, and I think this series is probably going 7 is where we're headed.
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I want to give it some time and see, because consistency is going to be the question, not for Joel Embiid and for the 76ers as a whole. As you mentioned, you needed contributions tonight from other guys. It wasn't just Embiid. But again, this is why resolve is so important to me. You're down 0-2. He sort of, he talked after the last game, and I don't think he talked in a bad way, but he said, look, we're going to win the series. It's not over. We're going to win the series. And tonight, to back it up with a 50-piece, there comes a point in a player's life and a player's career where it's like there are no more excuses. I think Embiid has had a lot of excuses. And I'm not trying to take a shot at him here. He's had a lot of, but it wasn't his fault. Ben Simmons, or James Harden or Doc Rivers. Like there's been these
injuries.
Injuries. He's got one this year. He's got multiple excuses this year, but this is the first time I feel like he's saying, Screw that. I don't want to say, hey, I've got this weird viral infection like that. I'm not using that excuse. It looks difficult what he's doing. And by the way, I said earlier, it's a lot of jump shots, and he's not in the paint as much as we kind of remember him being,
Right.
but he's so comfortable with his jump shot that he's got, 14 shots, 13 shots outside the painted area in this game, and he's making most of them. So he just looks to me like a guy who sees that the East is wide open, that there's vulnerable teams up and down the standings out there. And he looks like a guy who's ready to sort of do the impossible, which it takes to kind of get out of the conference.
This was a team on a 65, 66 win pace before he got hurt, right? Joel Embiid looked like he was on track to win his second straight MVP with the way that he was playing.
No question.
This is an overqualified number 7 seed playing a really good New York Knicks team, a totally qualified Knicks team right where they're at. And I do think that they could push this series, especially the thing that also stood out to me to talk about both sides here is you get a 50 piece from Joel Embiid, 25 points from Tyrese Maxey, and you're gonna get stuff from Embiid and from Maxey. Like, you know that Embiid's the top guy. Even when he wasn't playing well, he was still scoring like 32 points per game. I mean, this guy can't help but he rolls out of bed and drops 30 every single night. And he's gonna get something from Maxey, who's had an awesome season so far, obviously, most improved player of the year, blah, blah, blah. For the Knicks, this was a good Jalen Brunson game. They did some stuff off the ball with Jalen Brunson to kind of free him up, get him off of Kelly Oubre and some of those Philadelphia defenders. And I think that worked. He ends up going for 39 points in this one. But when that second player doesn't really step up, and it didn't really feel like they had that consistent second scoring threat in this game, that's the thing that the Sixers have, right? Like, they have a top duo. They have Embiid and Max. You know what you're getting with those guys most every night. With the Knicks, it's kind of like this roulette of Josh Harts and OG Ananobis and Dante DiVincenzo's and Isaiah Hartensteins and all these guys. It's like, all right, which one of these guys, a Miles McBride night once every week and a half, which one of these guys are going to step up? And when they don't get it, like they did not get it tonight, it puts them behind the 8 ball. And that's why that's sort of my biggest thing with the Knicks going forward is, can they get that?
And I think that both teams are relying on that, the others. And you're right, Deuce McBride won them game 2. Not solely, but by his contributions, especially late in that game. Tonight, you didn't get that from enough guys on the Knicks squad. And tonight, you got a 50 piece from Joel Embiid. I don't think he's scoring 50 every game this series, although I do think he'll score. But he was on fire tonight with his jump shot. So you're going to need to get – I really do think that this one might be one in the trenches. It might be one between, your Oubres and your Batums – and your McBrides and your Ananobis and all these other guys, DiVincenzo, as you mentioned. I really do think that a lot of these games are going to come down because there's not a lot of separation, even late in this game. This game was still in doubt until the final, 3 minutes or so. So I think the series is close enough. The Knicks have a 2-1 lead, which is a nice cushion, but the series is close enough that it'll probably be decided by who steps up.
Yeah, this is obviously still anybody's series here. But I will say, like, if the thing I would be scared of if I were the Knicks the most, and by the way, the point differential in this series so far is 0.3 points. So that's how close this thing has been. But 0.3 points per game. Obviously not total because that is impossible. But no, if Joel Embiid is moving like this, he's not going to go off for 50 points every game. But if he's moving like this, that's the thing that gives me the most fear if I'm the Knicks is, oh boy, like it's been a couple games. He looked really off in game 1. He looked okay in game 2. He's starting to look better in game 3. What does he look like in game 4, 5, 6? And that might be the biggest sort of deterrent for the Knicks in winning this series. They should still win this series. They had a 2-0 lead in it. But if Joel Embiid is what he can be, then the Sixers are probably the better team, I would think, just because they have the best guy by far. And that's no slight to Jalen Brunson. It's just Embiid is that good.
Brunson shot the ball a lot better than he did in games 1 and 2. But with all respect to Brunson, who I absolutely adore and love, Embiid is by far the best player in this series. And you know what? 50 piece tonight. This is a big playoffs for Joel Embiid. And like I said, it's interesting that the red carpet's not being rolled out for him. Things are not being easy. He's being challenged. And I just am so curious to see if he can continue to rise to it.
Is the Lakers season over? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On NBA.
Yeah. Yes.
It's over. It's over. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Well, our friends at Nissan have the lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. Let's start with the 2024 Nissan Rogue. It's the perfect for city drivers and great escapes. Class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system, and the 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Nissan's incredible lineup also includes the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. It has room of up to 8, expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capability. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds of towing, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop at nissanusa.com. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is also brought to you by BetterHelp. Look, sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off of our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to somebody who's unbiased in your life. Maybe you're having trouble moving up at work, or you've run into a wall in a relationship, or maybe you're anxious or sad and you just don't know why. Therapy can help, and it can be different for everybody. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. So visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Let's go to Los Angeles, where the Nuggets beat the Lakers to take a 3-0 lead in the series. I don't know if you heard, Adam, but the Nuggets have now won 10 straight games over the Lakers. They weren't mentioning that on the talk shows enough this week.
11.
Is it 11 straight now?
Wes,
Did
come
I
on.
screw that stat up?
What are we doing, dude? Come on, are you shortchanging? It's 11.
Wow, I screwed that up. Teams generally don't come back from down 3-0 to win a series, especially not against teams that they don't win against. Is it time to close the book on the Lakers season?
I mean, come on. When you say they don't generally, do you mean never in the history of basketball has it happened before?
Okay, it's been 11 games. Relax.
No, I'm saying I think it's like 0 and 152.
Oh, for the 0 and 3. Okay,
or
yeah,
0
yeah.
and 3. No teams ever come back. But, I mean, look, this series, and obviously Denver's the team I cover closest. This series, Denver is in first gear. And it's almost offensive how easily Denver is skating through this one. And Michael Malone, even at practice the other day, had a fire quote where he said something to the extent of, we've actually been working on some things that we were expecting from them that we haven't seen yet. As if to say, like, we're not even having to use our preparation yet for this.
Darvin Ham's over here being like, why would I waste any of my judgments in the first 3 games? I'm going to wait until my back's absolutely against the wall.
So then tonight, this was a game where I kept thinking Jokic, who was 9 of 13, goes for 25 points, 15 rebounds, 9 assists. He didn't go to the post tonight, where he does his most damage. He just didn't do it. And you kept thinking, okay, is he going to do it? And he never needed to. This was an Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter game. I think, yes, we can close the book on this version of the Lakers. They have a game Saturday that they seem to have no interest. This was a game, Wes, that the Lakers race off to an 8-0 start. They had energy. Denver cuts it to 4 at half. And then to start the third quarter, Denver goes on a 9-2 run. And I thought the Lakers quit. I thought the Lakers lost whatever shred of belief they had being down 0-2. But I also just thought they didn't have the will to make this interesting. And to me, you rarely see a team quit in game 3 to the degree that I felt you saw. And as a result, Jamal Murray and Jokic barely needed to push themselves in this game, and it was over.
The Lakers came out and threw that haymaker, right? Loved the energy. Looked like a team that was down 2-0, right, in a series. And I was like, wow, the Lakers are really bringing it. And they brought it for most of the first half. And you're right, like, the Nuggets didn't really deliver their next big blow until that third quarter. And I thought for the first half of that third quarter, I actually thought the Lakers defense was playing mostly okay, but it was just the Nuggets finding like the one hole. Like, it wasn't a Lakers defense that had a lot of holes. It was just Nikola Jokic finding the one hole and just poking at it every single time. And I think the Lakers were so frustrated by it because they were generally playing pretty good defense outside of it that they did just sort of fold and give up. And you got the LeBron throw his hands up thing, and then that was it. And so you're absolutely right, Adam. That was sort of my same takeaway from this. And who knows what they look like in game 4 if they come out with a little bit more resolve. I'm sure they'll throw another haymaker early. Could I get the first quarter?
You're sure about that?
I think so. I think so.
I
I
don't-
would go on FanDuel and try and take the Lakers probably to win the first quarter, and that might be it.
Wes, you had as many points as D'Angelo Russell tonight. You didn't have as many chocolate bars. He had one more chocolate bar, I think, than you had tonight while sitting on the bench.
I had one like malted milk ball.
Then you might have had the same number of chocolate candies as D'Angelo Russell. But you definitely had the same number of points, which is 0. I'll be honest with you, Wes. I don't know that the Lakers have it in them to fight hopelessly, of course, in game 4 to make it interesting. I mean, we'll see. But this did not look like a team that had belief. And on the other side, there was a great quote from Jokic after the game in his podium where he said, "We have a culture of winning here. Like, we don't want to give that up." And tonight is a night. Aaron Gordon has made enormous sacrifices. Michael Porter has made enormous sacrifices to become a role player when they are better to just be a role player. But tonight they were the stars. And Jokic and Murray, who are the night in, night out stars for this team, are so comfortable allowing them. Aaron Gordon, you have it going tonight. Go for 29 points, 15 rebounds, 12 of 18 shooting. Michael Porter, fourth quarter, you're open. Let it fly. Go for 20 points, 10 rebounds, 8 of 16 shooting. This team is just so connected and so willing to sacrifice for each other. And you look at the other end with D'Angelo not going into the huddle in the fourth quarter, just sitting by himself eating a chocolate candy bar. It couldn't be more different. Go ahead.
It's so weird with the Lakers too, because D'Angelo Russell has been so important to their second half push. He should not be this important, right? Where if he goes 0 for 6 or whatever it ended up being tonight, that they basically just completely torpedoes Los Angeles' offense completely. And the thing I can't figure out about the Lakers is for the second half of the year, they were this offensive juggernaut that wasn't very good defensively. But for the first 3 months of the season, they're this awesome defensive team that can't really score offensively. I can't figure out what this Lakers team is. And it's not really a team with an identity or any kind of culture, right? With the Nuggets, you're right. Like Aaron Gordon can go off for 29 points, and like the box score can look different. You're like, what happened with this Denver Nuggets team? Like, this is not the Nuggets. I'm like, no, that's watch the game. That's the same Denver Nuggets team. They know exactly what they want to be doing every single night. They always play the same way, even if the results are a little bit different. They're just like, they kind of just tilt one way or the other depending on where they got to go. But they have an identity. They know exactly what they want to do. They make you play to their tempo, to their tone. They make you play their game, and nobody else can do it. I don't understand why the Lakers can't get 30 3-pointers off in a game. They can't do it because they're playing the Nuggets game. And so Denver just is in so much control, and it feels like what LeBron used to do to people is what Jokic does to people. He just grabs the steering wheel of not just his team, but of the entire game, and he's directing traffic. He's telling that game where to go. Let's talk a little bit more about the Nuggets, though, because the talk shows are all going to be about the Lakers. We know that.
You think? Can I tell you something? I don't know. Is this Nuggets team? I'm curious for you. Is this Nuggets team inspiring at all? Is it a thing like where you watch them and you go, man, that's what teams should be trying to become?
Of course. We've seen teams like this, right? We've seen the Warriors, the Spurs. Like, these are the teams that you hear other front offices try to mimic. Like, every team wanted to be the next Spurs. Every team wanted to be the next Warriors. Now, there are teams literally saying, like the Houston Rockets, like the Sacramento Kings, we want to be the next Denver Nuggets. Like, you have front offices in the public saying that to the media. So I think they are that special. And I have a stat for you here too, because the focus is going to be on that 0-11 stretch, right? For the Lakers, 0-11 in their last 11 against the Nuggets. And that's going to be the stat. The stat that's not going to get enough focus is that the Nuggets are 17-4 in their last 21 playoff games across the last two postseasons. All right. I pulled up the list, Adam. That's a high watermark to hit. Here are the teams that have gone 17-4 or better in a 2 postseason stretch in NBA history. Okay. The early 2000s Lakers, Shaq and Kobe, awesome team. The early 2000s Spurs, Robinson and Duncan. The 80s Celtics and 80s Lakers. The late 80s, early 90s Pistons. The Michael Jordan Bulls in the early 90s and the late 90s. They did it those 2 times. Kevin Durant Warriors. LeBron's second Cavs team. The Big 3 Miami Heat, the Kobe and Gasol Lakers, and Kareem's Bucks in the 70s.
All iconic teams.
The best teams in NBA history that's the list I just rattled off. Those are the great teams we've ever seen. And that's what this Nuggets team is. That's the stretch of dominance that they are on. All those teams obviously won titles. The Nuggets already have their championship ring. They're my favorite to win it this year again. We'll see obviously what happens, but this is what we're talking about. And if they do end up winning that championship, I hope we start talking more in June about that kind of dominance and less about like what's going on with the Lakers and more on, okay, let's just, or not even like a Lakers thing necessarily, but like really kind of taking it in as, oh, we might be seeing one of the great teams we've ever seen.
And even more to the point, 13 of their last 14. You know, they dropped game 2 to the Heat. That's the only one since game 5 of the second round of the playoffs last year. That's the only game they've lost. Yeah. So go Heat. So Denver, 13 of their last 14 playoff games they've won and no sign of slowing. I will say, though, and it's so funny because it's Tim Conley in Minnesota. You know, he leaves Denver right before the championship. He goes over there. I think he's a great culture builder. I think he understands what it takes to build a good culture and a good team. And I look at that Minnesota Timberwolves team, who, by the way, also is up 2-0 with 2 very impressive wins over the Phoenix Suns. They play tomorrow. And I look at that and I go, there's not a lot of teams, the Miami Heat, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Timberwolves, and Denver. Those are teams that have not just built talented rosters where team pieces fit, but they clearly have built good culture. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious. I think that next round matchup between Denver and Minnesota, should both teams advance, I think that one will be more of a challenge for Denver than people realize. And I think that'll be a really great series.
We should do a countdown on like top cultures one day.
We should.
We'll do that in the next round. If it ends up being Timberwolves Nuggets, we can get a couple different cultures in there, but we're not going to do that.
Me and you fighting Heat culture versus Nuggets culture. We're fighting for the title.
Yeah, I guess Heat culture just sounds better though.
It does sound cooler.
Yeah. Nuggets culture sounds like something you'd get at like McDonald's or something. We'll get to our thoughts on Cavs Magic and then ask if Steph Curry really is the most clutch player in the league after this. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, then you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidates within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. They're constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. You should too. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We'll get to our power rankings here in a minute, but let's get to the only other game from the night. Adam, the Magic blew out the Cavs 121-83. Got a big game from Paolo Banchero and a starting lineup change with Jamal Mosley going back to Wendell Carter Jr. at center after starting Jonathan Isaac in the first 2 games in Cleveland. Are you feeling better about Orlando's chances in the series after tonight's win?
Well, absolutely, because it was not just a win. It was the third biggest win in playoff history, the third biggest blowout win, which is kind of wild given how that series started. But, you know, look, this was a thing about the Orlando Magic have the defense to win not just, you know, a game, but a series and even multiple series. They have the defense to do that. They don't have the offense. Tonight they did 121 points. They made some shots. And more importantly, they were the team, they were the aggressor tonight. I think it's very clear who the aggressor was in games 1 and 2. And I think tonight it was clearly Orlando in game 3. So they have a chance because I think both of these teams are tragically flawed and probably not going deep into the playoffs.
Right.
But tonight Orlando was able to gain some confidence, make some shots, and get going.
Yeah, Jalen Suggs, 24 points on 9 of 11 shooting. Paolo Banchero, 31 points on 13 for 26 shooting. And then Franz Wagner finding his rhythm a little bit, 16 points on 6 for 12 shooting, even though still 1 of 5 from three-point range. Not sure what happened to that three-point stroke for old Franz Wagner there. But no, my big thing was the lineup change. I don't know why Jamal Mosley went to Jonathan Isaac to start the series. I thought that was Jamal Mosley outsmarting himself. This is why you can't have nice things. Everybody's talking about how great Jonathan Isaac is as this sort of bench weapon, defensive kind of change of pace guy. And you're like, cool, let's start him and see if that's worse or better. And right. I didn't get it. I'm glad they went back to Wendell Carter. It was the obvious adjustment after they went down 0-2. They went to it. They lost the rebounding battle in a big way those first two games. Well, they won the rebounding battle tonight. Wendell Carter Jr. just knows how to play with this starting lineup, and there's something to be said about go with the group that got you there, especially if the Orlando Magic, and he hadn't been here in 4 years, right? Like, you don't really have the luxury of switching it up. Figure out what your baseline playoff level is, and then switch it up on top of it. I'm never really a fan of switching up your weird lineups in game one of a matchup. I like to find that baseline and then make adjustments from there, even if you lose the game. So I'm glad that Mosley stopped outsmarting himself, went back to the lineup that worked. I'm with you. I don't know who wins this series. It's going to come down to which team can score consistently, and I don't trust either team to do it. And I guess we'll see. And those are sort of my last thoughts on that. Should we get to the countdown?
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. It's Friday, which means it's time to count down to the weekend with our weekly power rankings.
I'm not a system player. I am a system player.
Go power rankings. Go power rankings.
Steph Curry was named the NBA's Clutch Player of the Year, which is up for debate because nobody really knows what that award actually is. So I thought I could count down the 5 guys who we would want for the final shot in any given game. Are you ready?
I'm ready for your list. Let's hear it.
My list. Honorable mentions before we get to the top 5. I had Jalen Brunson on there. I think he's worth putting there. Pull up three-point shooter, clutch. Love Jalen Brunson. He's on there. I had Devin Booker.
He belongs on there. I'm laughing because of how shameful that team has become.
I know. I have his teammate, Kevin Durant, also on this list.
Oh, man, they've got so many guys in the clutch, yet they're terrible in the clutch. This is strange.
They just got to try not to get blown out. Jamal Murray, who made one of these shots this week, is on.
He's an honorable mention? Oh, my goodness. Now I'm mad.
And Damian Lillard.
He's an honorable mention? Wow,
not in my top 5. Right now.
Spicy.
Not in 2021. I'm talking about right now. A game being played in 2024.
This is spicy. I love it. I love when you do the list. This is great.
Damian Lillard has 8 points in the second halves of these games. If I needed somebody to make a shot in the first quarter, I want Damian Lillard. I'm talking about the end of a game.
Don't bring stats into this, Wes.
Number 5, Nikola Jokic.
All right. Number 5?
I have him over Murray. Do you disagree with that?
No.
I have number 5.
Okay. 5? That's 5. So low. Is there anybody in the
what do you mean so low? There's 500 players in the NBA, and if I could pick anybody, I would pick Jokic, except for these other 4 guys.
All right. I can't wait to be mad 4 times now.
Number 4. I got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
You know what? I can't be mad at that one. I'm mad. Why is he 4? He should be like, if anybody was going to beat Jokic, it could be him. He should be 1. But okay.
Number 3, I got Luka Doncic.
Well, there's some clutch players in the NBA, aren't there, Wes?
You're like, wow, these are more good players. They're just
really good players.
This is the good player list. Number 2, and I surprised myself, I had Kyrie Irving.
Man, that lefty he hit against Denver, man, the left-handed running jumper is really – I think there's only one player in the history of the game that could do that.
When was that? Was that this month or that was March?
March, yeah, I don't know. It might have
February, March. It's still lingering. I wanted to call it like recency bias, but it's still sticking. It doesn't feel that recent, but it's sticking with me.
It's all time.
And number 1, I hate to say it, it's still Steph. I still want him taking the shot. I still want Steph.
So, man, he won Clutch Player of the Year.
And that's why, because it's a made-up award, and this is how most people feel.
Yeah, he's so clutch, man, especially in the playoffs this year. The most clutch player in the whole league didn't even make the playoffs. What are we doing?
Well, not everybody could be saddled with Andrew Wiggins. It's tough, man. It's tough.
So true.
Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Every dayers, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, Odyssey, and wherever you get your podcasts.